Hey everybody, my name is Don Mayo-Moschkua. I am the board chair for Clare Housing, and I have the absolute privilege and honor today to welcome Phoebe Trepp, our new Executive Director at Clare Housing. So as Carrie was sharing, we're going to have a little virtual get to know you and have a little conversation. I'm going to ask Phoebe some questions, learn a little bit about her experience and passion, and those things that have brought her to Clare Housing. So I am super excited to be able to welcome you to Clare Housing, Phoebe. And I get to play a part in introducing you to all of our guests today online with us. So welcome.
Thank
Very
you.
excited.
I'm so excited too. And this is such a cool opportunity to at least see some of your faces. So thanks for doing this virtually. I really appreciate it.
So Phoebe, let's start off with, if you could tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, and where were you before you joined our team?
Yeah, so I've been in nonprofit work for my professional career, and I recently came from Iowa, as in like 3 weeks ago. And there, my work has really focused on homelessness and new program startup, especially along the lines of permanent supportive housing. So wanting to help move people out of crisis and really into stabilizing housing and with supports added to that. So I had the great privilege of serving as the director at Willis Dady Homeless Services. We were named after a man experiencing homelessness down in Iowa, so it's a unique name, and was able to add several programs there over time, especially focused on veterans, but also families and single men was our core focus. And if anyone's from Iowa, my heart goes out to you because they had some really horrible storms last week, and our agency, my previous agency, is dealing with a lot of damage. So hopefully none of you are in the same boat, but that's where I'm coming from, and was really looking to get into services that were more stabilizing. Our shelter experience had 30 days max. So if you can imagine people in crisis coming in for a max of 30 days, it just didn't feel like enough time. And I wanted to do a lot more focused on permanent housing. So that's what brought me to Clare.
Wow. Wow. What really great work. The experience you have in housing and homeless issues is really vast. I understand you also have a master's degree in public health.
Yes.
Tell me about the connection between public health or healthcare and housing.
Yeah, so I was really interested. I went back to get my graduate degree after I'd been in the homeless field for probably a decade, because I was really interested in looking at community health. So my focus was on community health, and I thought about urban regional planning and some of the other ways that that connects, but I wanted to learn more about how we can improve outcomes in our communities through housing. And obviously, you all who have been connected to Clare know that the connection between housing and health is immediate, and it's so difficult to maintain good health if you're living on the street, if you're living in a different place week to week, if you don't know where you're getting your next meal, if you can't access steady health care. All of that goes away when you don't have stable housing. And not just stable housing, but I also think of desirable housing. So a place that I look at that I would feel comfortable living in and I feel like is desirable, that's what all of the people we serve should have access to. So I went back for my degree in public health just so I could learn more about, outcome measurement, program planning and implementation, best practice research, and really focused on that link between housing as healthcare and housing as a human right, which again brought me right to Clare's door when I started looking into this position.
Wow. We're very fortunate to have you and all of your experience. I'm really excited to see where we're going to go. So I understand you just moved here, did you say last week from Iowa?
It's been almost 3 weeks, so yes.
All right, but you're originally from Minneapolis. Whereabouts?
So I actually was at my parents' house last night trying to clean out 50 years worth of their belongings over in South Minneapolis. So I went to South High if there's any Tiger grads out there. And they live near Lake Nokomis. So this is like a little fun fact, but my middle name is Nokomis. And now that I'm back in Minnesota, people will know what that is instead of saying like, what is this middle name? And I would tell them it's Ojibwe for grandmother, but that didn't mean much either to them. So I'm from South Minneapolis and grew up there my whole life and went to the University of Minnesota, Morris, so way out in the country near South Dakota, and then headed to Tennessee and from there, now I'm back, but this is my first experience of really getting to know Northeast, and I'm looking at another possible house in Northeast later today. So hopefully I will become a resident of Northeast and get a little space from my family, but still, you know, good proximity compared to Iowa. So I used to work at the Dairy Queen on Cedar. I've got a lot of like things I love about South Minneapolis too.
That's awesome. I did not know you were a Tiger. I am also South High grad.
Are you really? Oh my gosh.
So that's exciting.
We probably had the same. Did you have Mr. Walter, math teacher?
I did. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Great.
So I'm learning more about you too today. How awesome is that?
That is so great.
Well, that's awesome. Well, welcome back to Minneapolis. We're so excited to have you back. What is exciting you the most about your new position as the executive director here at Clare Housing?
Gosh, I think I was really hoping I would find this, and I really have found that it feels like Clare is really that next step in not just my career, but in the lives of people who have faced enormous barriers and struggles. And so again, coming from that homeless lens of people who have no stability or people they can really trust and don't know where they'll access care, I have found so far all of my sort of wishes have been fulfilled here, in that Clare is clearly a place where people come not just to get the healthcare or the housing, but to really heal and to figure out what's next for them. And I am really motivated by Clare's mission, and I want to do more to help all of those on the waiting list of Clare services, to help them access housing and health services. So I'm really excited about the opportunity. Clare is very stable, has a really strong staff, is financially solid, has so many positive things that you've already figured out as a community. And now it's taking that and growing it to be able to serve even more people who have the needs that we can meet. So I'm really excited to like jump in and continue the work that you're doing, and to see that change that happens not over 30 days, but over a year or 3 years or 5 years for people sometimes, and that they have the time to do that, the space to do that, and they have the trusting relationships with staff to be able to do that. So I'm excited about all of the things that Clare does. It's not very focused, but it's clear that the history of Clare is just so rich, and has brought you to a really stable place.
Yes, absolutely. And and you're coming at unprecedented times with our current pandemic, Phoebe, and then on top of that, the recent uprising in the wake of George Floyd's murder at the hands of police. It's profoundly impacted everybody in the Twin Cities, our country, and beyond. The majority of folks who call Clare Housing home, they're people of color. How do you see the lessons that come out of the uprising affecting how you do your work as executive director?
Yeah, I'm super glad that I got to be coming here right now, and I am really eager to take on conversations surrounding racial injustice in particular. So I think that my work here is to, first of all, get on the same page with our leadership team, some of whom are on the call today, about what Clare has done in the past, wants to do, is ready to do, related to actual change, systemic change, community engagement around the inequities about race and housing. And many of us probably know there's a long history of systemic racism in the housing field. And I think when you look at statistics, which is similar to coming from Iowa, where you see nearly 50+% of the population experiencing homelessness are people of color, and then you look at our overall population, those things are so disparate, and there's such a great disparity in who's facing poverty and who doesn't have access to the systems that can benefit us. So I think that the first step is Claire had drafted right before I got here, put out a statement in response to George Floyd's murder. And in that, it talks about a commitment to working and to changing. And so I think my starting point is taking that to our leadership team, drilling into that and saying, you know, which parts of this do we feel we understand? Which parts do we need to define our language around? You know, do we all feel like do we all have the same understanding of equity and equality and justice and engagement and really participation? And then taking that as well to the full staff, that discussion. So having some shared understanding. From there, I think you build an action plan. So I'm very much about having structured conversation that isn't just a place for hearing each other, but it's also a place to say, how do we change what we're doing today? Things look different in the future. How do we bring more voices from people of color into our conversation, and more voices from the clients we're serving as well into our conversation? So this is a small example. One thing is looking at how are we recruiting staff? You know, are we really looking everywhere we could look to find people that would most represent our client population, or do we need to do that slightly differently? That's just comes to mind, you know, right away, because we posted a couple of positions last week. And so those are the things that we are going to be focused on immediately and over. It's not a short-term conversation. I anticipate that this is going to be part of Claire's framework going into the future until we really have equity, which is probably going to take a while. So yeah, I'm excited that I get to be a part of this work at this time. And I'm really committed to increasing equity in any way that Claire Housing can have a role.
You've clearly put a lot of thought into that, and thank you for that. And moving from that point of conversation, opening up the dialogue, coming from that place of understanding and learning where we're at, converting that into action is really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to that movement through the organization. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It might be hard, but it's worth, you know, that's the other piece. None of us are experts. I'm not an expert, but I think being willing to show up and acknowledge I don't have all the answers, but we have to talk about this and we have to do something different if we want a different outcome. So.
Absolutely. So you've worked with a lot of people who have transformed their lives thanks to housing and support that they've received. Can you talk about a moment that sticks, that will always stick in your mind? We have those in our work. And it really shows the work that was done, and you'll remember it forever. Can you talk about one of those moments?
Yeah, gosh, it's true. There's such a range. So I think one that I often come back to is actually sort of highlights why I wanted to move from homeless work into more permanent supportive housing work, is that when I was working in Iowa, we had started a very small little permanent supportive housing project for 5 individuals. And we brought someone in, and he was coming out of the VA. So he was a homeless veteran, and he was suicidal, had been in the psych ward for months and months. And he came out and he was in the program, and he didn't go back into the hospital, but over time he really got his feet under him and he started working. We had a supported employment program as well. So he started working there. And then it turned out that he was able to come out to us as a trans woman and was able to transition. And then she was able to share that with her counterparts in the home that they were living in. And then it was just so many steps, but then she also rebuilt relationships with her family and ended up taking on a full-time job, totally independent of the housing program or of the supported employment program. And just seeing like that goes back to that, like housing as a stabilizer and having people around you that you support and trust. And I just wonder what her life would have looked like down the road if there hadn't been a place for her to get stable housing, just that basic, like stable housing and supports around her. And yeah, so that stands out a lot. And she's still doing really well, housed and working. And yeah, that was a really memorable person to work with.
So it sounds like not only did you provide this space of housing, but you also provided this space of community and this space of support, which really is what converts housing into a home, right? Is those people around you and those relationships. And that's really another important part to the housing component.
Yes.
So how absolutely awesome to do that with her. That's really cool, really cool.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So speaking of a place to call home or creation of a home, I hear that you are one of our big speakers at this year's A Place to Call Home event. And I've also heard that the event is taking a bit of a different turn this year, and different than what we've ever done in the past. So do you want to take a minute and tell everybody about that?
I would love to. I know you of course expect me to say this, but I'm actually really excited about our event because it's something I would want to go to even if I didn't have to go, like I really would want to go. So instead of, if you've been before, we usually have in the past done a lunch and then a breakfast, and this is a huge deal for Claire. So we had budgeted to bring in $250,000 at this event. So imagine like all of that on one day, so we plan a lot. We have speakers. Obviously with COVID, we've had to rethink and retool. And thanks to the wonderful development committee, they've come up with this great idea, sort of spawned by other COVID changes. So we are renting some space at the state fairgrounds, and we're asking people to come in vehicles, just like you would come to a drive-in movie. And then we will be a live drive-in movie for you. We'll have presenters at the front, including myself, but also we have some wonderful drag performers coming in, and we have some other sort of surprise video elements and awards. And instead of being like, what are they saying? You can tune into us on your radio station, just like at the drive-in, and we will have car hops available with popcorn and little goodie bags for you to take home. So we are looking for caravan hosts. If you want to host a line of your friends and vehicles, this would be a great opportunity. And then after our presentation, which is just about an hour, we'll have a little intermission, entertainment, and then we'll have a showing of Rent. And we'll have 4 screens. So depending on where you're at in the drive-in, you can see on the different screens. And so it's going to be super fun. And we need people to sign up and come to our event. But it's on September 30th, Fairgrounds, and it's live now for people to start purchasing, or to sign up, rather. And I wonder, yeah, it's been like just the ideas behind it. Like I said, I feel like it's been months since we could go out and see live entertainment, especially drag shows during COVID. So like, this is your opportunity. It's going to be a myriad of different kinds of things to watch. Mine won't be quite as entertaining, my part, but that's okay, because you've got a movie at the end.
And when does this happen?
So it's September 30th, and I believe 5:30. I wonder, I'll look for nods. Yep, 5:30 is when we'll get rolling.
That's fantastic. I know that my husband and I, we are really looking forward to it. We are Claravan hosts, so we will have a Claravan of friends there also. So we're really excited about it. So in your week 3, we're going to open this up for the Q&A portion of our session. And we have one question that has come in, and it says, in your week 3 of being at Clare Housing, what's been one thing that stood out for you already?
Oh, gosh, it feels like you're, the phrase like drinking from a water hose, because everything stands out. But I have probably enjoyed the most being able to shadow staff. So at Midtown, which is the only place I've been able to do that, yesterday, actually, being able to see the staff there interact with clients, and particularly a client that was having some major issues and appeared to be having some mental health or substance use issues, and like watching Claire staff sitting across and really hearing that person and what they needed and trying to figure out what that person wanted. You know, does that person want to move to another location? Does that person want to stay here and work through some of their issues that they have? And that is what that's to me like what it's always about, is about that actual human contact between Claire staff and the clients we're serving. And that's why we're here. So seeing that, I was like, again, like, yes, this is exactly where I want to be and why I came to Claire, because I want everyone to feel respected and to be treated with dignity.
Great, thank you. So this is from someone on behalf of our clients. Do you view Claire Housing as a long-term home or medium-term transitional residence?
I love questions like this because I think the answer is both, for sure. I like it doesn't have to be one or the other. As a huge proponent of permanent supportive housing, I think it's important that people have the option to stay stable where they choose to be. So if we have people coming in that choose to be here and this is the environment they prefer, then let's encourage them and help them achieve other goals in their lives while they live here. And if that's permanent, great. And then we'll have people come in that maybe, you know, I've seen a lot of times while people experience homelessness, they're cut off from their other supports, often family and friends. They haven't been able to maintain those relationships for different reasons. So I think when people get stably housed and start to receive healthcare and mental health care, they may rebuild relationships and realize, hey, I would like to be in a different environment, maybe closer to my family or friends, or maybe in my own apartment without anyone, you know, who knows my name at the front desk. So I think it's a both answer, and again, that Claire has that flexibility. So I think it's very person-centered on what that person's goals are.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And how about what is your favorite comfort food? And what are you currently reading?
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. I'm having a real problem right now because I'm reading 3 books, which is like ridiculous. That's not usually a thing, but okay. So my comfort food, I am a vegetarian and I like a lot of cheese and eggs. So I'm not a vegan, but probably like mac and cheese is probably the best comfort food for me. Pasta, really any pasta, pesto, red sauce, cheese. I'll take all the stuff on the pasta.
All right.
Yeah, cold pasta, hot pasta. Yeah, I'm into that. Egg on the pasta. I like that a lot. And then, okay, so the books I'm reading, I'm in a book club and we are reading The Alice Network, if anyone's heard of that. So that's been really interesting. And then I'm currently living with my in-laws, which is really gracious of them as I look for a place to live. And I didn't bring all my books. So I picked up a book about he wrote the Pelican Brief, that author. It's like a legal mystery.
Okay.
It's not my usual thing. And it's also, okay, so that. And then at Claire, there was recently a book club around the book White Fragility. So I just started that as well, so I can catch up and have those conversations with staff as well.
Wonderful.
So hopefully I finish like one of the 3 soon.
That's great. Sounds like you're very busy taking on a new job, trying to get through 3 books, living with your in-laws. A lot going on, a lot of change right now. So speaking of change, a question came in, and how has COVID changed the way Claire Housing is able to deliver services to clients?
That is a great question, and probably, you know, a better question for someone who's been here since March. But what I have seen is that again, being able to see some of the frontline staff, people working with clients, is they are just as in it, if you will, as ever. So they are still doing all of that person work, you know, direct work, building relationships with clients. there have been a ton of additional expectations for staff related to taking temperatures, monitoring visitors, being able to check on other types of symptoms. So we have the pulsometer, I'm gonna get the word wrong, but checking the oxygen level in your blood, recording all of this in case someone does have a positive case. And we have had, I think we're up to 6 or 7 clients that have tested positive. So then of course you're doing contact tracing and quarantining. So it's been on that level, I think, very different in looking at what is our obligation as a housing and medical care provider to our tenants. And then on the level of relationship building and case management, I would say that's continued on as stronger than ever, probably than before. And then a big difference is obviously the admin staff. So people that are not working directly with clients are not in the office, working from home. I've seen that there's a lot of collaboration and communication throughout the week, even though people are working from home. But I have to think it's tricky. You know, we probably came to Claire because we like to be around people and to be in community and to really see the impact of our work. And so I think it's important for us to talk about that too. How do we continue to stay connected to the people we serve if you're physically so far removed from them all the time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started our conversation today about remote work and how it impacts our workforce. And there's been just so many things that are different for all of our staff, everybody who works at Claire. The team has done an amazing job stepping into this space at this, as we said earlier, unprecedented time during this pandemic. And they have done just groundbreaking work to provide services to our clients. So a shout out to the team because they are doing amazing work. And thank you for your work too, Phoebe. So we do have time for one last question. I believe we have time. Carrie, do we have time for one last question? I think, well, actually, I think we're done now. So I just looked at the clock and it's like, oh, look at that, we're at 11. So I do want to thank everybody for joining us today. And Phoebe, oh my gosh, thank you so much and welcome. Again, we're all very excited you're here.
Thank you. It is so my pleasure. And I'm so excited to see your faces and names. And I know there's many I haven't met yet. So I'm excited I get to meet you because this is fantastic.
Absolutely. And Carrie, do you have anything else for us from a housekeeping perspective? Should we have closed out in any way other than what we're doing now?
This is perfect, Don. I love it. Thanks so much to everybody who joined us today. And we hope to see you on September 30th at A Place to Call Home.
Absolutely.
Yes. And you can wear a little 60s outfit if you want, or 50s.
Yeah, I probably will, just for the fun of it.
I'm going to have to go find something now.
Yeah, a little skirt. There we go.
Great.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic Tuesday.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.